Hi everyone, thanks for joining today. We're just going to wait a few more minutes to let everyone in and then we'll start. All right, we might make a start while people are still filing in. Thank you everybody for joining us today for the return of the AfPA Live series. I'm Melissa Lyons and I'm the Executive Director of AfPA, Director of Technology at AfPA. I will be your moderator for today's session on best practice of bitumen emulsions, not emulsion primes. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the lands where we meet today. I would also like to pay my respect to the elders, both past and present. I also extend that respect to the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people online with us today. So before we dive into today's webinar, there are a few quick housekeeping messages. So we're scheduled for a 60-minute session with 50 minutes of presentation time and 10 minutes of question and answer. Your cameras and microphones have been turned off. If they are not on your screen, please do so. We have also disabled the chat function for this webinar, but if you have any questions, please use the Q&A function at the top of your screen, which is next to the chat function. If you have any technical issues or anything during the webinar, please email our events team directly and they will be able to sort that out for you. So this webinar has been developed as part of AfPA's cutter reduction strategy. This strategy is aimed at incrementally developing and implementing alternative techniques and products to migrate away from the use of traditional cutters and bring Australia back in line with international sustainable best practice. So this webinar builds on last year's webinar series that addressed the reduction of cutters and sprayed sealing. The learnings from this series highlighted that bitumen emulsion primes as a safer and more sustainable alternative to traditional cutback bitumen for priming granular bases. If you would like to know more about the strategy, as well as or listen to the previous webinars to get more background information, these webinars and the strategy are available on the AfPA website. So just as a bit of a lead in before we go to our presenters, emulsion primes are a sustainable alternative to traditional cutback bitumen where kerosene is traditionally used to reduce the viscosity of C170 bitumen so that it can penetrate into the base prior to surfacing. The current Australian standard has just been updated and we've actually reduced the number of grades specified to the AMC 00 and AMC 0. So today we have three experts who will share insights on the production and application of locally manufactured bitumen emulsion primes across the Australian network. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our first presenter, Sean Mumford from Downer EDI. Thanks, Sean.
No worries, thanks, Mel. I'll be presenting today on Downer's EcoPrime product. And I will be assisted by my colleague Taylor Samuel, who is our product integration lead as part of our road science business here in Australia. So I will just go to the next slide. So EcoPrime, what is it? It's a proprietary cationic bitumen emulsion prime coat designed to replicate performance of traditional AMC primers, reduce cutter volumes and environmental impact of priming operations, and improve overall site safety and reduce prime curing times. The product properties, we have a minimum of 20% bitumen binder content in the EcoPrime. Viscosity sits at between 2 and 8. pH sits between 5 and 7. And our sieve residue sits at 0.15 maximum percent. The notable, I guess, property there is the neutral to low acidic pH, which improves the compatibility with a broader range of granular and stabilised pavement materials. The handling requirements. The shelf life of the product is 3 months and in line with Australian standards. Storage is at ambient conditions with precaution to prevent freezing or boiling of the product. Pumping or product transfer can be done using conventional equipment for bituminous emulsions and other bituminous binders. And we recommend suitable employee training and work procedures are in place for handling of all bitumen products, including emulsions. So training of the operators in safe working with bitumen, AfPA bitumen safe and working safely with bitumen training is available online. Having appropriate swims and work instructions is very important, and following product changeover procedures and product transfer inspection checklists is also highly recommended. Further to handling requirements, there is also guidance available on product changeover procedures and requirements for next loads in the Austroads Bituminous Materials Safety Guide, specifically Table 9.1. This guide describes safe working practices when handling bituminous products and can be used in conjunction with your own standard operating procedures, safe work method statements, and any supplier product recommendations. We believe that it's good practice to follow a planned boil out procedure when changing from emulsion products to hot bitumen products to eliminate risks of hot product boilovers. Application requirements. So heating of EcoPrime is not required. The product should, however, be adequately circulated to ensure the product is homogeneous prior to application. EcoPrime can be sprayed with conventional bitumen sprayer nozzle sizes, AN18s or AN9s, which are S2s, to provide suitable uniform coverage if spraying at lower application rates. Typical application rates for EcoPrime are similar to an AMC 00, between 0.6 and 1.1 litres per square metre. Pavement conditions for best results should be well compacted and fully dried back with a uniform tight surface finish. Good practice application temperatures are for ambient and pavement temperatures of 10 degrees and rising. Wind speeds of 20 kilometres or less, or reduced by 5 kilometres if application rate is less than 0.9 litres per square metre. That'll give you a good fan and a good coverage. Good practice in optimum conditions is to allow curing time between 12 and 24 hours before applying a new seal binder. These times may need to be increased in cold or less than optimum conditions to allow for adequate prime cure. EcoPrime in most situations achieves penetration and cure for seal placement within the 24-hour period stated, and thus reduces overall construction time by up to 48 hours in comparison with cutback prime options. The EcoPrime does have a lower residual binder content than AMC products. However, across the sites that we have used the EcoPrime in our experiences, our in-field observations, we have not currently recognised a reduction in the bond or adhesion of placed seal binders. Suitable bases. EcoPrime is compatible with natural gravel, crushed rock, cement treated bases, lime stabilised bases and foam bitumen bases. Case studies. So EcoPrime, we've been able to successfully prime granular pavements in the following environments: low traffic volume sites sealed with C170 and low modified PMBs, high traffic volume highway sites with both low and high percentage of heavy vehicles sealed with PMB, regional airfields sealed with PMB, and mine haul roads with high percentage of large heavy vehicles sealed with PMBs. Lost my spot. So benefits of emulsion versus cutback primes. Safety. It's not a dangerous good, and a significant reduction in solvent use equating in significant reduction in greenhouse gas emissions. Handling, less volatiles and less HAZChem requirements with handling on site. Curing time, construction ready sites in 24 hours in optimum conditions. CO2 footprint, approximately a 70% reduction when compared to using AMC00. And the cost per litre for EcoPrime is lower in comparison to an AMC00. So further to that, there's also less restrictive transporting with no requirement for dangerous goods licensing for personnel or equipment. EcoPrime product is non-flammable, so is therefore safer to store and handle than traditional cutback primes, reducing risk of product vapour flash or fire through poor handling practices. And based on all of this information, it would be fair to suggest that the current industry expectations are that there will be continued uptake in the use of emulsion primes in the future. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Thanks, Sean. Just a reminder to everyone, if you have any questions, please use the Q&A function or even comments, and we'll address those at the end of the presentations. I would like to now introduce our second speaker, which is Alvin from Fulton Hogan, presenting on EcoPrime. Thanks, Alvin.
Thanks for that, Mel. I'll just start up by apologising to everyone. I've been battling a bit of a cold, so the voice is a little bit scratchy, but we'll poddle through it. Now, cutback priming and initial seals using cutback oil is a long-established road surfacing practices in Australia. But contrast, emulsion systems have been around for about 3 decades, but haven't been utilised as much. Conventional cutback treatments rely on kerosene or cutter to provide a suitable binder viscosity. This facilitates adhesion of the covering aggregate to near road bases. However, an undesirable side effect of using the cutback binders is the risk of retained cutter mitigating onto the final sealed binder, resulting in seals flushing or bleeding in the wheel parts in hot seasons. Now, based on that, Fulton Hogan developed an emulsion-based product that would allow placement of the prime or the initial seal in cold, damp conditions. This would help, and it would help reducing the risk of bleeding seals and removing the need for cutter, increasing safety, reducing curing time, and ease of handling. So EcoPrime is basically, it was formulated to reduce the level of hydrocarbon solvents emitted per unit square, per unit area treated without compromising pavement penetration and strength. Key components of EcoPrime, bitumen basically suspended in water, minor hydrocarbons and emulsifiers, and obviously the rest is made of water. The EcoPrime product contains about more than 20% by weight of bitumen. The conventional cutback binders achieve adhesion primarily through low viscosity, so bitumen diluted with cutters, which facilitates wetting of the road base. Now, alternatively, emulsion primer seals are already quite fluid, with the binder suspended in water, and we're able to achieve the aggregate wetting at much lower temperatures with reduced hydrocarbon solvents. The consistency ranges from about 0.9 to 2.2, which correlates to about a viscosity of about 0.016 Pascal seconds. Emul Prime is a positively charged, and has a pH approximately about 3 to 4 on the pH scale. Handling requirements. Now, Emul Prime has a storing life in excess of about six months if stored correctly. Drummed products intended for extended storage should be stored under cover and upended every 3 to 4 weeks to redisperse sediments. Tank stored products should be gently stirred or recirculated every 4 to 5 days and just before use. Pumping, so positive displacement pumps, so example, a rotating gear type will tend to shear the emulsion if pump tolerances are very tight. The pump should be jacketed and heated with a relief valve as an essential. In cold weather, rapid set emulsion should be warmed to about greater than 40 degrees if being put through a gear pump to avoid it breaking. Centrifugal pumps, where the material is fed into the center of a pump under gravity and a high-speed impropeller flings it out through the outlet. These pumps result in fewer shears of the emulsion and are generally preferred with no special requirements needed. Application requirements. Now, so the heating requirements of primer seals can be achieved by the following methods. So hot oil, separate hot oil heaters or extra circuits on an existing heater can be used. Oil temperatures must be 85 degrees Celsius or below. And coil design is important and should be in spiral in shape. Hot water coils with water ranging from about 40 to 50 degrees are suitable for many of our emulsion applications. And obviously, you've got your solar heating and electrical heatings can be used. Now, nozzle size, as the primer is applied at low application rates, so let's say less than 0.7 litres per square, the type of nozzle is crucial for achieving the desired spray pattern. And so the wide hollow cone type is a common choice for this application, provides a wide spray angle, and it ensures good coverage with each pass. Another low application nozzle is the reference in Osroads. I think the AN9 is another option suitable for low rate applications. Now, the Emul Prime is supplied ready to use and normally applied at about 0.03 litres per square as a tack coat to about 1.2 litres per square for a very porous surface. Now, typically on a granular base, we tend to apply it at about 0.7 to 0.9 litres per square. Base prep. The prepared pavement must be sound and preferably lightly damped, although Emul Prime will penetrate dry pavements. Pavements, however, must be free of dust and loose material. So the minimum air temperatures is basically ambient air temperature. Pavement temperatures from about 10 to 50 can be primed. However, best results are obtained in a temperature range of about 20 to 40, with speeds no more than 20 k's an hour. Emul Prime is able to cure within 24 hours, reducing delays to paving operations and leading to savings in construction times. Now, suitable bases. Emulsion primes are commonly used on granular pavements like crushed rocks. Which are to be surfaced with spray seals or even asphalts at a thin layer. They improve bond between the granular base and subsequent surfacing. Now, the most suitable grade and application rate of primer will depend on the surface finish of the base course. So we recommend small-scale trials on the pavement material. Now, where pavement is stabilized with cementitious or chemical binders, is to be primed with a bitumen emulsion. A check of the compatibility of the emulsion with the stabilized material should be undertaken. Emulsions will in most cases be compatible with bitumen stabilized pavement. However, a reduced application rate is recommended. We've had a few jobs that required an alternative products to your conventional binder. And I'll highlight a few of these here. We did some rehab works on Mount Victoria Road and the Blue Mountains. They had cold, damp conditions, and it was proving challenging for conventional treatments, and Emulprime was selected to complete the initial seal. And there was no issues. Another job was that we used the Emulprime product for was Dubbo City Council on behalf of the RTA in New South Wales. This work involved initial seals of a selected section of the Golden Highway, where it was cold, damp, and it was challenging once again for the conventional treatments. Now, this site had traffic loadings of about 4,000 vehicles per day. It was a 9,000 square metre sections, and the Emulprime, allowed the project to apply the final seal and open traffic earlier. Now, another high traffic location was on the Pacific Highway, about 80 k's north of Taree, and it had about 13,000 vehicles per day. Now, construction of this job faced many challenges, including climate conditions, high traffic volumes, community constraints, such as the need to minimise noise and dust. Once RTA decided to proceed with the chip seal with the final wearing course, RTA's attention focused on the need for an effective primer seal under the proposed geotextile SAM seal. Now, previous experiences with cutback primer seals in this region had not always been satisfactory. So problems with the damaging effects of heavy rains soon after placement had been experienced, and had significant flushing problems with the chip seal over the conventional primer seal. So the use of Emulprime for the initial seal helped solve these problems. Okay, benefits. Emulprime also provides additional environmental and operational benefits, such as reduced volatiles, hydrocarbons ending up in the environmental as pollutants, as well as reducing delays to the final seal. Now, Emulprime also helps to reduce the risk of washouts, so that's a safety issue. It is non-flammable, so easier to handle, and it extends the road construction season. And it also reduces the risk of bleeding and seal problems. Now, two main challenges with emulsions, and I'll highlight the first, is the evaporation of volatiles. Now, the advantage of water-based system is that the evaporation volatile component is relatively rapid, resulting in a quicker curing time for the primed surface. This characteristic was observed on site and was confirmed by lab work through loss of heating experiments. Now, this testing involved emulsion and cutback primer samples, which were in turn subject to a rotary thin film oven treatment. Now, the oven temperature was raised from initial 40 to about 120 degrees over 20 minutes. Now, this was done just to avoid the risk of boil over. The samples were then removed and weighed and measured for the loss of volatiles, and as illustrated here in the figure, the Emulprime performed the same, if not better, than the conventional primer in reducing volatiles within a set time. Other benefits of the Emulprime is that it conserves non-renewable hydrocarbon resources. Now, based on the AfPA LCA calculator, the Emulprime stacks up pretty well against the AMC00 in terms of embodied carbon per tonne of the product over its life cycle. Emulprime has roughly half the amount of embodied carbon than the AMC00, and this is mainly just due to the amount of kerosene and bitumen, and approximately 30% less embodied carbon than the CRS60 product. Just a little comparison there. Now, it also provides comparable bond strength to conventional primer seals. Now, the second challenge for a water-based emulsion initial seal system is to set and cure quickly enough to provide a sufficient strong bond between the covering aggregate and the new pavement to withstand the stresses of early traffic. Now, a possible mode of initial seal failure is the lack of satisfactory bond between the seal and the crushed rock substrate. An in-house test was developed to check adhesion strength by means of tensile strength where the failure is located within the base material. The test compared interfacial bond strength of the Emulprime and compacted road base and compared it to an AMC00 with a similar compacted road base, which is highlighted in that bond strength graph there. The results show that the bond strength of the Emulprime is equal, if not higher, than that of the conventional primer binder. And this was all sprayed at 1 litre per metre squared. And I will hand that back to Melissa.
Thanks, Alvin. I would like to now introduce our next speaker, Hamid from SAMI, who will be talking about SAMI primes.
Thank you very much, Mel. Thank you, everyone, for coming to this webinar. My name is Hamid, R&D and Technical Support Manager for SAMI Bitumen Technologies. I'm going to talk about our range of emulsion primes, which is SAMI Prime family, including SAMI Prime K2, SAMI Prime K2P, and SAMI BioPrime. So SAMI Prime K2 is a cationic bitumen emulsion used for priming any type of granular or bound-based courses. It has low viscosity that can penetrate to the base courses fast and easily. So it waterproof the base course. It has very good wetting properties. It can be cured within 12 hours, is more environmental friendly than the cutback primes and doesn't normally require any heating. The next version is SAMI Prime K2P, which is the polymer modified cationic bitumen emulsion used for priming the concrete substrate like the bridge decks, for example. This product is more alternative to the QDP products, which is quick dry primes that traditionally used for the priming the concrete decks. And they were very flammable products that now industry is hesitating to use them. So SAMI Prime K2P is the polymer modified version of emulsion prime and can be the replacement of the QDP. So again, with the low viscosity, can penetrate to the pores of the concrete surface, and also it provides very good adhesion to the concrete and between the concrete surface and the next layer, which is spray seal or asphalt, can be cured within 12 hours. As mentioned, and eliminate the use of dangerous goods like the QDP and environmentally friendly, and again, doesn't normally require any heating. And the bio version is SAMI BioPrime, which is a cationic bitumen emulsion, again, for priming any type of granular or base course or bound base courses. So this version doesn't have any petroleum cutter. The penetration to the base course is very fast, can be within 1-2 hours, depending the weather condition, is the more environmental friendly than other emulsion primes that we have. And also safer to use. So as mentioned, is very fast curing. Apply the next layer actually in the same shift, which is improving the productivity. As you know, the time is gold in the project, so you don't need to wait until the crew come back the next day or a few days after for the cutback primes, for example. It contains no petroleum solvent, so the solvent in it is made from renewable vegetable-based oil, contain no volatile, so it doesn't need to wait that the volatile will be evaporate. It has negative carbon footprint, and it comes with the official verified and registered EPD. So actually, when you are using the project, so it doesn't add any carbon footprint to the amount of the whole of life embodied carbon footprint of the project. And it's safer and more environmental friendly. So these are the technical properties of these products. So SAMI Prime K2 and K2P, the residual binder content is minimum 20%. For SAMI Bio Prime is minimum 35%. The viscosity of all of them is sitting at maximum 20 millipascal seconds. And the pH of all of them are less than 7, so more on the acidic side. So because they are cationic emulsions. And as I mentioned, so they are coming with the EPD. So for the people that they don't know what is EPD, EPD is Environmental Product Declaration. So as like in the foods that we have nutrition label on the foods for the ingredients that they have. So EPD is like the nutrition label for environmental performance, that it shows that the product, what is the global warming climate change properties, what is the carbon footprint. So all of the performance in terms of environment, it's written in the EPD. And SAMI has the registered a lot of EPDs on the EPD Australasia, so all of them are officially verified and certified, and you can have access through the link on the screen. So it shows the transparency to the industry as well. So for our product, for example, AMCO has the carbon footprint of 540 kilogram of CO2 per ton. And SAMI Prime K2 is 203, which is more than less than AMCO. And SAMI Bio Prime is minus 68.8 kilogram of CO2. So actually, with the replacement of each ton of prime coat, the AMC cutbacks with the SAMI Bio Prime, we are saving 600 kilogram of CO2 for each ton of cutbacks that we are using in our projects. So the application requirements for all of the products, K2, K2P, and BioPrime, heating normally not required, but for K2 and K2P, if we spray them at a higher temperature, like 50, 60 degrees C, it helps for faster curing and evaporation in the cutter. The base condition for all of them should be completely swept. For K2 and K2P, we can apply them on both dry condition and also damped surfaces, so it can be under the saturated surface dry condition. But for SAMI Bio Prime, the surface should be completely dry. Minimum air and road temperature, so we suggest that minimum temperature of 10 degrees C for the pavement temperature and air temperature. And weather should be dry, so we don't want to have rain just before the application or after the application to prevent the wash of the product as well. Curing time before applying the new surface, so it depends on the temperature as well, but normally K2 and K2P can be cured within 12 hours, and SAMI Bio Prime is even faster, so it can be cured within 1 or 2 hours after the applications. So these are the suggested application rate for the products, but just typical recommendation at the end, application rate should be determined the design and need the site engineer approval. For SAMI Prime K2 is between 0.5 and 1.5 liter per square meter. For SAMI Prime K2P is 0.25 and 0.35. And SAMI Bio Prime is between 0.5 to 0.8 liter per square meter. So this is the result of penetration power test that we have done on all of our emulsion primes when we were developing the product. So the test was under EN 12849, which you have the a specific amount of a special filler in the cylinder in the lab, and then you put the your primes, cutback prime or emulsion prime, the specific amount on it, and then you measure the time that it completely penetrates. For example, in this case, the bioprime penetrated in 40 seconds, while AMCO penetrated in 176 seconds, so more than 4 times higher. And semi-prime K2 is sitting somewhere between these two. For the handling requirement, the shelf life of the products are 3 months, but we need to have remixing prior to usage, because normally these products, the binder content is lower than the normal emulsion. So the residual is sitting at top of the emulsion, so it's not like the sediment. And this is why we need to have the remixing before the use. So a storage condition is like other emulsion. We need to prevent freezing, and also better to keep them in shade if they are keeping in IBCs or drums. And for the pumping, again, similar to the other emulsion, we need to try to avoid gear pumps. But normally emulsion primes are not that sensitive in terms of the pumping. And so emulsion prime don't need dangerous good transport, which is good and easy for the logistic of the projects. And we can spray them with the conventional sprayers. So there is no need to have the special equipment or machinery in the project. Suitable base. So we can apply the emulsion primes, semi-emulsion primes on natural gravel, crushed rock. And for the treated base, cement treated base and lime treated base, we need to see that how close is the surface. And it's better to do the paint test before the applying, and see the optimum application rate before applying. And also the compatibility. Sometimes the stabilized bases are very close surface, and the penetration can be a little bit tricky, but normally are compatible with all of the base course and the foam treated base as well. There is no issue. And for concrete surface, the K2P product is ideal product for the concrete surface. So these products have been used in Australia for several years, maybe K2 and K2P for more than 20, 25 years, and Sami Bioprime, I think 7, 8 years now. And in the last 5 years, more than 6,000 tons of K2 and K2P were used, and more than 2,000 tons of Sami Bioprime were used in different projects, in different traffic conditions, different weather conditions. So there is no limit on the type of the projects to use of these products. Overall, emulsion prime versus cutback prime. So safety of these products are much better because we are handling them as a cold state in ambient temperature. Transportation is cold, the storing is cold, the application is cold. So there is no risk of explosion. And they're better for environment. No VOC, the carbon footprint is lower. For Sami Bioprime, the carbon footprint is even negative. Handling of them are easier, so they are not dangerous good. And the storage and the sprayer is easier as well. One of the most important things is the curing time. As I mentioned, the time in the project is very valuable. So for the cutback primes, you need to wait at least 3 days that all the cutters will be evaporated. Normally, we don't have this time in the projects. Sometimes we do the next layer, unfortunately, before the cutters completely evaporate, and then we will have flushing and bleeding in the next layers. But with the use of emulsion primes, all of these is eliminated, and you can do the next layer even in the same shift and improve the productivity, decrease the risk of bleeding and flushing. At the end, the cost is lower as well because of the improving the productivity, because of the lower dosage that we are using, because there is no need for the dangerous good transport and special licenses. So in total is all advantageous. Thank you very much. Over to Mel for Q&A.
Thank you so much, Sean, Alvin and Hamid, for your presentations. We will now move into the Q&A. So please keep the questions coming in the Q&A function at the top of your screen. We have one question for you, Hamid, from Adele from Moorabool Shire Council. The question is about Sami Prime, and beyond the low viscosity, he's wondering what the technical mechanism by which Sami Prime K2P's carrier component penetrates and binds excess lime or cement in the concrete surface layer, and how does this process contribute to long-term adhesion and integrity in the subsequent bituminous application?
Yeah. So for the Sami Prime K2P, actually, as I mentioned, is the polymer modified bitumen emulsion, and it designed actually its formulation and the polymer that it has, so improve the adhesion to the concrete and the next layer to the asphalt layer or the seal that we are going to put on the asphalt on the concrete surface after that. And the particle size of the K2P is actually much finer than normal K2 because of the process of the production and also the formula that it has. So normally we do the ISS test, which is interface shear strength, with the Lautner jig or NCAT jig, and we try to compare the result with the K2P and conventional QDP result, and we saw that the shear strength that we are getting with the K2P is as good as QDP, so at least not less than QDP products that they were using in industry for concrete surfaces.
Great, thank you. A question for me, so you mentioned that's for concrete bases, the K2P. So can that polymer product be used on granular bases, or if not, why not?
Yeah, it is possible to use K2P on the granular basis as well, but you don't need it. So K2P is polymer modified and is a premium, so you are paying for premium as well. So you don't need the polymer modified prime for the granular bases. And also because of the polymer that it has in it, so maybe it maybe have some picking up problem as well when the construction vehicle comes on top of it. But for sure, for the concrete surfaces, we just suggest the K2P among our family of products.
All right, thanks, Hamid. Got a question here from Brett. For each presenter, do you have a preferred product for prime or primer initial sealing of pre-stressed laminated timber bridge decks? One of these items or an alternative product? Anybody? No, we can come back to that. We can come back to these questions and answer them after the webinar if they're putting you on the spot.
No, actually I answered. So for the priming the concrete surface, this the product K2P product can be used, but they are not normally the emulsion primes are not the final solution for the primer seal. So you need the prime coat, and then on top of the prime coat, you need the primer seal, again, binder and the aggregate if primer seal is the initial seals. Because normally the prime coat are completely penetrated to the base course, and theoretically you will not have a lot of residual on the surface to hold the aggregate. So you need to spray the prime coat, and then on top of prime coat, you need to do the initial seal or primer seal.
Right. Does anybody want to add anything else to that one?
So the question was about use on timber, wasn't it?
Timber bridge decks.
Timber.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. No, I might have to have a think about that.
That's all right.
We haven't used, to my knowledge, we haven't used our Eco Prime on timber, but it's a good question.
No worries. We can come back to Brett on that one. Just a quick one for you, Hamid. What is the minimum bitumen content of your Sami BioPrime?
Yeah, so we are leveling the binder content, residual binder content. For SAMI BioPrime, the minimum residual binder content is 35%.
Great, thank you. We have a question from Trevor. So what are the obstacles to the great use of emulsion primes? Anybody want to?
Well, for
Well, I
me,
guess.
So
Yeah, go on, sorry.
sorry. For me, it's just the adhesion and curing time, I guess,
Mhm.
and the environmental conditions that you face out there. And also, I guess, to an extent, the improper application of the Emul Prime we've had in the past, where people have gone out and sprayed more or less than they should have, type of thing. That's, I guess, typical of a spray, any sort of spraying construction out there. Eh?
yeah, I'd probably tend to agree that a lot of it comes down to being able to improve construction times, and we definitely, I think, see good penetration and good coverage of the base surface with the emulsion primes as well. We, like I said before, during my presentation, we haven't really seen any adverse impacts on bond with the following seal binders in any of our situations that we've been involved with. I think early on in the use of emulsion primes, in my experiences, one of the things that I think people were concerned about was the low residual binder content. But I think with the uptake of the use of the EcoPrime in particular for my situation, I think we've got past that now. So I think it's really about I guess having some specification or some industry guidance on being able to adopt them further and take away some of the I guess concerns about using them in place of AMC 00 and O.
Great, thanks, Sean. I guess, yeah, well, I didn't mention this at the start, but our presenters today are from our National Surfacing Committee. And so, yeah, if this is something of interest, creating these model specifications, yes, this is the forum or the people to propose that too. So thank you. Hemi, did you want to add anything to that one?
Yeah, I think the main barrier is, as Sean mentioned, so is the specification and procurement. So when we don't have the specifications and requirements, especially for the transport projects, so the procurement of the products are difficult as well, will be difficult as well. So maybe this is one of the biggest barrier.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, guys. A question from David. If emulsion primes need to be trafficked during construction, how long can it be trafficked for different volumes without damaging it?
So I know with our EcoPrime, probably after about 6 hours, we've put what I would consider to be light traffic and construction traffic on it without too many detrimental impacts. And being that in most situations we're sealing over it the very next shift, we haven't seen a lot of, I guess, real negative impacts on that surface. And I guess if we're in a situation where we think there's going to be a bit heavier traffic volumes, then we'll often just grid it off with a 5 mil, particularly if it's a smaller area, and that tends to protect it quite well before we put the seal on.
Right, thanks, Sean. Another question just from David. Is it feasible to increase the binder content above 20% to give even better bond to a subsequent seal? I don't know if that was targeted at someone specific or to all of you.
Yeah, so if I may take this.
No worries.
Yeah, so for the emulsion primes, the design of the emulsion primes to be a successful product, so it's not just the bonding. So bonding for sure is one of the main things that we need to look at it. But at the same time, we need to look at the curing time. At the same time, we need to look at the penetration depth. So all of these criteria you need to look at the same times, and some of them are actually going in the opposite way of each other. So at the end, you need to sit at the optimum condition that reach all of these properties that you want.
Thanks, Hamid. Just going back to the question, it's in relation to the question I had about using it on concrete. So we've got a question or comment from Martin saying that although it's not, the polymer modified emulsion is not required for general granular bases, we should select a K2P binder for high stress locations on granular base courses, such as steep inclines, turning movements, etc. Is that?
Yeah.
Thanks. Yep. Yep. So just more for a comment. Yep. It's all right. No worries. There is another question, and I'm assuming some other people might have this on their mind, is just like cost comparisons between bioprime versus traditional, traditional cutback primes, which we've already kind of explained in the within the webinar. The question did ask about comparison between traditional binders, though, which I guess just to answer, we've got Claire. Thank you, Claire, for answering that one. But CR S60 and C170 are not actually prime, so we can't, and they're sealing grade binders, so we can't actually do a cost comparison. It's just not relevant there. But does anybody else have any extra comments around, I suppose, the cost of the bioprime, the emulsion primes versus the traditional cutback primers?
So I know in our case we can definitely produce the Eco Prime at a cheaper price than an AMC 00. That's probably what I would compare it against. But again, it's like everything. If we're going to do large scale works, then I guess it's relative to that. The cost is relative to the amount of product you're using. If you're going and doing quite a small job, there might not be a significant cost difference. But if you're going to do a large priming job and you're using a cheaper product, then obviously the saving is more relevant or larger. If that makes sense.
Yes, thanks, Sean. Does anybody else have anything?
Just one comment. So I don't know about the price of the product, and I am not allowed to talk about this.
Of course, whatever you can share.
Yeah, but the thing is that at the end, I'm sure that if you see all the criteria that you are gaining from the emulsion primes in total, at the end, for sure, the total cost of the project will be much lower in terms of when you are thinking about the efficiency, that you don't need to wait for 3 days to cure the cutback primes, for example. And in these three days, you may have rain, for example, and all of these cutbacks, binders will wash off. Or if you don't wait, so the cutters will not evaporate, and it may cause the flushing or bleeding. And at the end, normally, as Sean mentioned, the emulsion primes has the lower application rate and dosage. So in total, I'm sure that with the use of emulsion prime, whatever it is, the total cost of the priming will be much lower.
Thanks, Hamid. Alvin, I don't know if you have anything to add to that. Pretty good.
We've experienced something similar. It all depends on location, size of the job. It can be a little bit cheaper, but that once again, that's based on less kerosene, less cutters, and less application rates. So it does have its benefits. So construction times are. So you got to look at it overall. I think as a product getting placed on a construction job.
Thanks, Alvin. Just one last question before I throw to Trevor to do a little bit of a summary. So do we talk in terms of minimum binder or minimum bitumen with proprietary products? I suppose
Minimum binder.
depends if it's, minimum binder. There we go. All right.
Yes.
For us,
yes.
for our case.
Yeah, for
Taylor?
Diana's case, it would be minimum bitumen content.
Okay, there you go.
So yeah.
Thanks, Taylor. All right. Well, I might, if there are any more questions, please send them through and we will try to address them post-webinar. I'll now throw to our Surfacings Committee Chair, Trevor, for some final thoughts and summary. Thanks, Trevor.
Thanks, Mel. I'd like to thank all the presenters for sharing their best practice on the use of the emulsion bitumen-based primes. As you heard at the beginning of the session, it's been our goal of this committee to look at different mitigation measures to reduce the amount of cutter. And yeah, we're talking kerosene that we use in our spray sealing operations. And primes is certainly one have relied on using kerosene typically to reduce the viscosity of the bitumen so that it can perform the priming function. I'm hoping that after today's session that we can all take some comfort in from the presentations that there are a number of emulsion-based primes out there which have been in use for a long time and with great success. They definitely bring a lot of benefits over the traditional cutback primes. The couple of standouts is the safety for the site people. We would have to use these primes. There's no heating required. There's less fumes that have been generated during the application process. And because they're less volatiles in these emulsion primes, they cure a lot quicker, which means you get with less delays in your surfacing operations, which is going to be a big benefit financially to the contractor and to the expediting the works for that project. And of course, the big one is brings a big savings in the carbon value of that operation, and that's something that we've been faced with in all aspects of road provision and deliveries. Is what we can do to reduce the embodied carbon of the materials that we use on our projects, and this certainly gives us a pathway into achieving that outcome. So going forward, I would certainly hope that everybody gets some comfort out of what they heard today. Whether you're a contractor, that you'll have more confidence to use one of these products rather than your standard cutback product. And then for the road asset owners who are putting out the different surfacing works on new constructed base courses, that they'll also have the courage to specify emulsion primes over and above the traditional cutback primes. If you have any queries, please be free to contact Mel at AfPA on these products, or speak to the speakers here and ask more information or assistance in the use of these primes. So I'd like to thank everybody for making the effort to participate in today's webinar, and for those who took the time to dial in and listen to the speakers. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Trevor. Yes, thank you to everyone for attending today. Once again, thank you to our presenters as well as the Surfacing Committee, our AfPA events team for the organisation of this webinar. Just to finish, we've got some, just want to highlight some of the upcoming training that AfPA have, as well as our training pathways document. If you haven't checked that one out already, please do. You can follow the QR codes on your screen, and these slides will be shared with you after this webinar, as well as the recording. and it wouldn't be the end of a full webinar without a plug for our upcoming conference. So if you haven't yet registered, please do head to the website. We've got a fantastic range of social functions partner programs. The block program will be released shortly, so you'll be able to get a bit of an insight of what to expect from the technical front as well. And yeah, we hope to see you there for what should be a fantastic event. Thanks everyone for coming once again, and we hope to see you at the next webinar.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.